Hardware or optimization? Like, which would you rather have between the two? For a few years now, smartphone manufacturers have been releasing phones year after year with little improvements to make the user experience better each year for the user. They provide years of software updates, so it keeps the phone up to date for a while, which is good. Each smartphone company appeals to their customers very differently. And I've noticed right now with the Chinese smartphone market, they are making a push towards hardware and people are taking notice. I mean, they have been doing this for a while. They have to stand out, somehow. But like companies like Oppo, Vivo, Xiaomi, even Huawei, not with the chipset, but like camera specs, their hardware is getting really, really good. Now, that isn't to say that Samsung or Apple's hardware is bad. Not at all. Like, really not at all. It's just to say that these companies, Chinese companies, are making more than normal improvements in the hardware department to the point where it makes the norm seem a little behind and you take notice. Their higher than normal specifications make it really appealing to actually look at these phones. The Oppo Find X9 Ultra, for example, has a large battery. It has a 7050 milliamp hour battery. Now, even like with moderate use, that is a 2 day battery. With intense use, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm assuming you could push it to the morning. But that is a huge battery, which right now the norm generally, especially within Android, as a consensus, is kind of like around the 5000 milliamp hour mark. So Samsung has a 5000 milliamp hour battery in the S26 Ultra, which is really good. It actually is an all day battery phone with the optimizations that actually make it last the whole day. But 7,000 versus 5,000, it's kind of a big jump. You do notice it, like it's a whole day's worth of battery extra. Many aspects of the Oppo Find X9 Ultra are kind of better than the iPhone and the S26 Ultra, besides the chipset, because the S26 Ultra and the Oppo, they use the same chipset, whereas Apple's A19 is really industry leading. It's not that it's faster, but like they're around the same speed for both in terms of performance. However, Apple has its own optimizations, which makes that chipset really good as well. In my opinion, I think this is an obvious push just to make their hardware better than other phones and stand out in that way, which as a selling point is good. I mean, have you seen the camera unit on the Oppo Find X9 Ultra? Sorry, I can't even say it properly. But the Vivo X300 Ultra as well has a huge camera unit. They're almost all similar, including the Xiaomi 17 Ultra. It's as if all three companies had a meeting and they were like, hey, we can swap designs, but just make it look a little bit different so that it's not exactly the same. Copy my homework without copying my homework. Hardware is only one side of the smartphone coin. You have to have good software, and that software has to work well with the hardware to be able to be a good phone. And the Chinese smartphone brands like Xiaomi, as I've listed before, have software that actually works really well. Their Android skins are really good software. It's much improved from how it was previously, and they actually have good optimizations with their own Android skins. Now, I haven't necessarily physically tested these phones and checked out their software and whatnot. I just read a lot of articles and watch a lot of reviews. So I have an idea of how it works. But of course, it's better to actually have the device in hand and testing it and actually telling you about it. So in the event that I get the phone in the future, which I will, from one of these brands, Chinese specifically, I want the Oppo, but that's besides the point. I will be able to post it on to this channel. So stay tuned for that and subscribe. Now, on the other hand, iPhone hardware is really good. Even though it's a little behind Chinese smartphone brands, it still is good because their hardware works really well with their software. They are in control of the process from start to finish in terms of the hardware and the software. So it makes it easier to make optimizations. On the Android side, it's a bit different. Android operates on a bit of a one size fits all approach because there are so many Android phones being released each year and different smartphone brands release each of their own phones. So it's very difficult to kind of make granular sort of optimizations for each phone. So that one size approach is a bit more, it makes sense. Android software is really good. Don't get me wrong. It's just that, it's not first priority. Whereas with iPhone, like it's just like a few phones. So it's easier to kind of deal with that than it is with like a bunch of phones with different specs. that's kind of like a bit of a hurdle for developers. So I kind of see why they kind of do that. And if you look at, like, if you just see how apps are shown, they use an iPhone on ads, like for businesses. Like, I don't like, I think I've seen one from like various insurance companies and whatnot and business banks and whatever. They're like, oh no, here, sign up for our app. And then that phone that they use is an iPhone. Like, you can actually see with the dynamic island. And if they turn it around, you can actually see the arrangement of the cameras. You're like, ah, that's an iPhone. iPhones are literally the perfect example for great optimization. And in the past few years, Android has caught up. So choosing between hardware and optimization is less of a concern because every phone does that really well now. Personally, though, I would want a phone that has great hardware, like really, like maybe even higher than normal specifications and good optimization. So the Oppo kind of does sound really appealing to me, but like just generally, the S line Samsung phones are really good. The iPhones are really good. So in terms of that balance between hardware and optimization, you're not going wrong if you just pick a decent flagship phone. However, these Chinese phones are really kind of they're getting my attention. Must be honest about that. Thanks for watching. This was just more of a discussion type video and just trying to keep up with what's happening in the smartphone world. I haven't had like a whole lot of time at my disposal. However, like more videos coming, so stick around and I'll catch you in the next one.